Hey y'all, welcome to the Stories That Sparkle podcast. I'm Hella Rader, and I'm really excited about today's episode because I sit down for a conversation with Adele Wimsett of Harmonise U with an S. She's in the UK. She's a women's health practitioner, and she focuses on working with women on all kinds of things, but specifically hormones, perimenopause, menopause, and ADHD, the perfect storm. Yeah. So, did a whole study about it. We talk all about this. I really wanted to sit down with her and have this conversation. I've been following Adele for a while on Instagram and really wanted to just have this conversation with her because my feed is just full of all kinds of stuff and supplements and do this and don't do that and so I really wanted to talk to her about the real nitty gritty medical pieces of this, the study that she did about the perfect storm. So yeah, I just really wanted to hear from her, someone with really great information and excellent expertise specifically on this subject. I really wanted to hear from her and get that information out there to all of you. So for anyone who's listening, welcome. For anyone who's watching, video pod episode alert, welcome. And I just invite you to get comfortable, sit back and listen and or watch along. Okay, so hi Adele, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here on the Stories That Sparkle podcast. If I came across your Instagram is how this all began. I think, I don't know, a year or so ago, some time ago. A friend of mine, also in menopause along with me, was like, you should check her out. So good. Oh,
Oh, that's
ADHD. And
nice
I'm
to
like,
hear.
and I was like, oh, thankfully somebody understands, what this is like. So, and is talking about it. So it was one of the first, it might have been longer than a year ago. It was one of the first, you were one of the first people I found out in the world who were talking about the intersection of perimenopause, menopause, and ADHD. So it was very helpful to me. Thank you for,
My pleasure. My pleasure. And there's a lot of people talking about it. It's now the sexy thing to talk about,
I
right? But
know.
they're not always doing such a good job of it. So,
Right. Well, that's why I wanted to chat with you because I know my feed is just chock a block now with all kinds of stuff and information and this and that's is so I wanted to talk to you and sort of and really get to the some good information basically and
yeah,
get that out
thank you.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm really working on at the moment is how to remove some of the overwhelm of the noise for ADHD women because our go-to safe parent is information, right? How do I intellectualize this to understand it? And unfortunately, there's a lot of oversimplified information that actually, when not undertaken correctly, can cause more problems. And it's just completely overwhelming. They're not contradicting each other. So what am I meant to do? What's the truth? So hopefully we can unpick all of that today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So maybe we can start just a little bit of background, like what was your journey into this whole universe of being a health practitioner focused on women's health? Like what was your personal journey to even get to that place?
Yeah, I mean, like all of us, this was a later career that got very exciting to me. I spent 20 years, I was in a senior position working with vulnerable people. And one of my lead areas was special educational needs and female offending. So I'd always worked with very vulnerable people and I had understood ADHD through that lens. And I used to joke around that, oh, it's my ADHD, but never really allowed myself to embody that because I'd been successful, quote unquote, never really thought about it. And to cut a long story short, I went into the women's health world. I left that career, went into the women's health world because I felt very driven and very passionately about empowering women with knowledge around how to be well based on models that work for women and not for men, because we know most research is based on men. So I went into that field, retrained, which changed my life. I loved it. But then I got my own diagnosis when I hit perimenopause. And so I I say that I bridge the science and the sacred. I want to know the data and the science, but I also want women to connect with their body and their nervous system and their cyclical nature. So I went to the research to say, okay, well, how is my ADHD affected by my hormones? And there was a lot of righteous rage that came up there because there really wasn't any. I undertook a literature review, which didn't take me very long because there was hardly any research. So I made it my mission. Oh my gosh, I that two birds just flew into my window. I'm going to take that as some kind of omen that we're doing this.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I have a bird feeder right out there. So me and the birds, yeah, they're always
Oh,
ah,
brilliant. Um, So I made it my mission to create a framework for ADHD women to understand their lived experience in a hormone literate nervous system led way. So that's how I got here. And now I really do specialize in perimenopause and ADHD. I undertook the only study that there has been into this last year, which was amazing. Amazing group of women came through that with me. So yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about, but that was the journey into this
right.
space that evolved very organically. There was no plan, obviously. It's just evolved and become a thing that I love.
Right, right. Well, because yeah, so you did that study called The Perfect Storm, right?
Yeah,
And then I want to get into that and also circle back about you mentioned embodied, the sacred, and I know that's something else where we overlap in terms of somatic work, which is its
definitely.
whole universe of things, but very interconnected to this, and I find very helpful as part of the solution for sure. Um,
Absolutely. I don't think this is my personal opinion that you can be working in this field with ADHD women or even in women's health and not in the basics be trauma informed. I think just being an undiagnosed little girl with rejection sensitivity dysphoria is traumatic. You know, we have highly sensitive nervous systems. We see the stuff that other people don't see, right? I often say this. We walk in a room, we know who likes us, who doesn't like us, what's expected of us, mask, survive, right? And that's our
Mhm.
nervous system is on. And a lot of the neurotypical advice about how to meditate doesn't work for us. In fact, it's quite stressful, going
Yeah,
to sit
I
in a
can't
corner
do
and
it.
just say,
No, like
I don't want to do
yeah, I had to like learn how to meditate while doing the dishes or
that.
driving. Like
Yeah,
I had to just go, oh, I can't just sit here and meditate. Like it just doesn't work for me. And it was making it worse because I'm like, I can't
well,
get this one very simple thing. So,
and then we're feeding that inner critic that tells us we're not good enough to do something, right? So for me, this is very much where somatics come into it. And you cannot support someone's hormones unless you are working with their nervous system too, because the nervous system runs the show. So no matter how many protocols someone wants to chuck at you around supplements and gut and liver, all these things are important, right? But if your nervous system is running the show and has been for decades, you're pushing a rock up a mountain trying to bring about true change. And that's why I feel my approach is all about let's stabilize you first. So the body's like, okay, I can do this. Now we can look at histamine. Now we can look at gut. Now we can look at liver. But if you're not stabilizing first, you're just a lot of ADHD tax, right? We've all got the supplement cupboard where we've got every supplement under the sun. It's there, every health device that just overwhelms us with information. We're a marketer's dream because we're desperate to find solutions in a world that doesn't understand us.
right,
So, yeah, the somatics for me are a big part of the overall picture.
right, right. Okay, so tell me about the perfect storm and the study that you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in not just moaning about something and then not doing anything about it. So I did the moaning. I was very moany and cross that there wasn't the research into my body and to me to understand what was happening and my community. So I was like, okay, enough moaning now. Let's do something about it. So I was very fortunate to be able to partner with a company called Mira, who I think are phenomenal when it comes to hormone testing. I'm not a fan of blood tests for estrogen and progesterone. I don't think they're very helpful. But this device was a urine device, urine testing at home, test every morning, and it will tell us your exact estrogen and progesterone levels every single day of the cycle.
Oh wow, real
So,
quick, I'd never heard of urine. I've heard
yeah,
of the saliva. I've done a saliva version and the
yeah.
blood version, but I'd never heard doing it via urine. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So
very cool.
it would be the urine all over the night. So it's like an average over that period. So it gives us really good insight into the levels of progesterone and estrogen. So using their device, it's very easy. ADHD women, they loved it. It's good for us because it's instant data. We're getting that real dopamine hit straight away. We're like, oh my gosh, look at what's happening. So we tested that daily. It was perimenopausal women who were diagnosed and unmedicated and not on HRT. So we were getting this raw picture. And I got them to track their traits alongside their daily testing. And it was so validating for the women that were involved because they could see in real time, look what happened to me that day with my hormones, like progesterone dropped off a cliff, and look what happened. So it was a really validating experience to show this intense, direct relationship that the hormones have with neurotransmitters. There is no way any ADHD woman should be being supported by a professional who is not at least asking her how her traits show up in her cycle. The menstrual cycle and hormones are fundamental to an ADHD woman's experience. And yet it's missing. It's such a missing part of the conversation. So for these women to see in real time, like, oh my gosh, this isn't in my head. Look at what's happening. And then to go, well, that means there's something I can do about it, right? So what we saw, my findings, and I'm sure this is something you come across, is this estrogen obsessed narrative around ADHD. And yes, we need estrogen. She's not the devil, but she's dangerous in the wrong hands and not properly managed. And where we see nuances in ADHD women in this, oh, women need estrogen because it sensitizes dopamine and serotonin. Yes, it does, but it also sensitizes and feeds histamine and glutamate, which are very excitatory for the nervous system. And particularly if we have a history of trauma, they can be there. And we know that estrogen literally changes the amygdala response in the brain. There's a new piece of research that's just come out around that. So actually, we just want to be a bit cautious with her. So my study showed, which I had firmly believed for a long time, was that women really right into their late 40s largely don't need estrogen. Their estrogen's doing just fine, but progesterone ships out. And so, when we consider progesterone as a mood stabilizing molecule and a nervous system regulator, if you don't have sufficient progesterone, you will not be able to sleep properly, you will not be able to regulate your mood or stabilize your nervous system. That's the hormone that goes from 35 to at least 45. That's the hormone. Estrogen's usually doing all right. So progesterone goes, no wonder the lid comes off our traits, right? Quite often women have been coping with all their strategies, the fast-paced woman in our 20s and 30s. And then we hit perimenopause and it's like, what fresh hell is this? The lid has come off. Okay. And what we're seeing in real time through this testing was it was progesterone. It's not estrogen. Estrogen's fine. We start adding estrogen into these bodies when estrogen's okay. That's not helpful. It's quite harmful, actually. But the progesterone, when we start bringing progesterone into the picture, that's where we start seeing the changes for most women. Okay,
Right.
so that's what the study showed. And I think there's such a massive focus on estrogen that we're really missing a huge piece of the puzzle for ADHD women. That if people really understood these hormones and what exactly is happening in our bodies, we could find so much relief for so many women.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember when I I mean, thankfully I had the benefit of women ahead of me who,
Mm.
anecdotally I would describe to them what was happening and they're like, yeah, that sounds like menopause, lady, go get it. Because I had a hysterectomy, so I didn't have a cycle to trigger an awareness in terms of, a monthly indicator of presence or absence. So, but I remember my doctor, who's a functional health medicine doctor, he was like, there's not enough black cohosh
for you, lady in the world. Like you can take all the black cohosh you want. This is a hormonal issue, and we didn't even get into the ADHD because to this day I don't need a diagnosis. I'm pretty sure I know what this is, but he did have the HRT cream include progesterone,
And that
which
is amazing.
I can looking back, I didn't understand at the time. That was like 5 years ago or so, but I didn't now in retrospect, I'm like, oh, that was really great that he included that in the mix. Yeah.
Really great because so many women that are given a hysterectomy are actively refused progesterone. And to me, I think that signifies one of the massive failings of our current medical model in refusing to give progesterone to women with a hysterectomy shows how little education our prescribers have around women's health because progesterone does so much more than protect the uterus, which is their justification. It just protects the uterus. No, it doesn't. It grows your
Mhm.
bones, it protects your breast health, it regulates your mood, it makes women sleep, it protects the myelin sheath around the nerves. Why are you denying this? These
Right.
healthful properties to women because they don't have a uterus. Completely, I think it's diabolical that that's what happened. So I'm so pleased to hear that you got that.
Yeah, no, like I said, and what was amazing is at the time didn't even know how helpful that was and how important that was until years later when there was more information, because I just didn't think to ask. I trusted him very much. I
Yeah,
mean, great
we do.
doctor. So, that was another important piece to me was, having a doctor that I can talk, who's listening and who's talking to me and who's giving, like, breaking down the info on a screen, like breaking down the results and what they mean. I think that's also hugely important because it makes you
Really
feel like, oh,
important.
I can trust what this person's saying. They know what they're talking about and they can help me. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to remove the ego that comes with working with women because the reality is the training hasn't been there. Certainly here in the UK, we've got a self-proclaimed misogynistic medical system, not because prescribers are misogynistic, but because the training and the way that we operate is misogynistic. It doesn't understand women. And this is why women have gone down the rabbit holes desperately seeking solutions and information because we're dealing with a system that doesn't understand us. We're dealing with a system that tells us synthetic progestins that have significant risk and side effect are the same as body identical progesterone that doesn't have that risk and side effect. That's what we're dealing with. So it's chaos. It's really hard for women to be out there to go, what's the truth? What am I meant to be doing? I need to advocate for myself. It's exhausting.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you navigate that as as a woman who's working in this field and how do you navigate that and keep your system in a stable place?
In terms of my own protocols myself or dealing with the medical system.
Well, both. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
first for yourself and then also like how do you navigate with, from that place, the medical system? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, um, I apply the same models that I work with my women. I feel very firmly we're in a season, right, where women are coming with tons of data about their bodies. They've often invested a lot of money in genetic testing, functional tests, medical tests, and they're overwhelmed with the information. They don't know what it means. And I've been there. That's the thing. Years ago, my health anxiety was driving this, like, what's going on for me? I need to understand this. And through the nervous system work, I've switched that on its head. And what I lead with is curiosity, not fear. And this is where I try and meet my women is why are we getting this data? Do we need this data? What's it going to tell us? So for me, I take a proactive, preventative approach in terms of any testing that I do. That's number one. So what testing do I want to do every 18 months? I've got my baseline, what's shifting, what's changing. So for me, that's like a full bloods MOT that looks at thyroid, iron, liver, B12, vitamin D, that kind of thing. Ferritins are really important for ADHD women. Prolactin is a really important one to look at. So that's like my annual testing. And there might be some functional tests that I weave into that. For me, it's tailored supplementation. does my body need? There is no supplement out there that is going to sort out your perimenopause and ADHD. Doesn't exist. Don't waste your money on it. And
Mhm.
supplement taking is really difficult for ADHD people because it needs consistency. If you can't find a strategy to be consistent with supplements, don't waste your money buying them. Just don't bother. There's no point.
Yeah, that
Okay.
I've gone through periods where I'm like, I'm not doing this because I keep forgetting. So
Yeah.
if I don't have it in my little bowl by my bed to know like visually that I took it, I can confirm, yep, I took it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I won't know if I took it or not. So yeah, I totally get
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. If we don't see it, it doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right? So they're two things that I'm addressing first, not because I think they're the most important, but because they're the ones that ADHD women tend to get tangled up in, like spending lots of money on supplements and tests. Actually, I don't think they're the key here. I think what we want to do is simplify it. So let's stabilize first and then look at optimizing. And my approach is very much around three pillars that I see working most effectively for myself and for most women in my community. One is to properly replenish progesterone. And I would say now 95% of prescribers are not doing this. Okay. We have known for decades that progesterone is amazing for mood management. So we want to look at it the right route, the right dose, the right timing for your body. Okay, so for me, that looks like vaginal, oral, and transdermal progesterone cream. Okay,
Mm,
that's my sweet spot. So it's
right.
doing this dosing dance with women to say, okay, we know you need progesterone, we know that. So let's start the dance. It's not quick. You know, you might be the lucky one that goes, oh, I've started taking that and I skip off into the sunset. Most women aren't going to be like that. It can take a long time to get right. So that's number one. Number two, regulate your blood sugar. Okay, we know ADHD people are many more times likely to develop type 2 diabetes. I won't go into the reasons for that, but blood sugar regulation is huge. And actually, it gives the biggest reward for the least effort quite often because most of us are eating regularly. We've just got to put a little bit of thought into what that looks like. We also need to look at cortisol driven hypoglycemia that can bubble if people, and I'm not talking about when we're looking at balancing the blood sugar, I'm not talking about ketogenic diets. I'm not a fan of ketogenic diets for women. Women need carbs to ovulate. Okay, so we want all the macronutrients in here, but we want to look at blood sugar regulation. This is massive for us. And then the nervous system support. So they're the three pillars that for me are non-negotiables. My day needs to be is to absolutely focused on my circadian rhythm, getting that sunlight in the morning and at midday where I can, my blood sugar, my diet, how I nourish my body. And this, I'm talking like grab and go food. Okay. It needs to be nourishing, but few steps, simple. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Okay. We want to get rid of this perfect image in our head of like spirulina smoothies and kale crisps. And no, it's too much. It's too much. Keep it simple. And nervous system support. My nervous system support is utterly leading the show. You know, if I'm feeling overwhelmed or there isn't time for it, that's the time that I have to go, whoa, that I know that's where I'm going too far into it. And those three things for me are what makes me feel good in this
Right.
season.
So what are some like nervous system support? Because you mentioned cortisol.
Yeah.
Also like because I know like that's like that like for me it's
Mm.
the energy just all goes whoosh, like right up here and gets stuck and like swirls in a mad dash of insanities and thought.
Yeah. Yeah, particularly imagine, you know, when you've been triggered by RSD, that like like full body visceral effect. That's usually the adrenaline. That's the
Mhm.
first like rush that you
Right,
feel because the body thinks you're about to be eaten by a bear, right? It doesn't realize that someone's sent you a text that's totally dysregulated you. So
right,
that's the adrenaline. And then the cortisol comes in to sustain that, right? So
right,
that's the adrenaline. The adrenaline comes in first. So the adrenals are pumping out the cortisol to maintain the stress response to survive. Now, the challenge comes is because cortisol is the number one queen bee hormone. The body will resource cortisol over anything else because it's there to save your life. Okay.
mm,
So, if this is why I say nervous system support is non negotiable when you're dealing with your hormones, you have to, if those adrenals don't feel safe, there is no point trying to work on these other parts of the body because it will just keep being knocked out because the nervous system will override any other system in the body. And to give an example of this, where I just think the body is incredible, some of the receptors associated with calming progesterone, the calming effects of progesterone, they literally get sucked inside a cell. So they're not available to stimulate a calming response when you're stressed. And that is so you don't calm down when a bear's running at you. It doesn't want you to be calm. So it goes, no, I'm not available. So no matter how much progesterone you're putting in your body, the receptors just aren't there. So this is where, for me, weaving this into your daily practice is really important. And for women, this looks like being present with pleasure. Okay. It's not trying to
Mm.
silence your mind. That might be putting a song on that lights you up. For me, with my women, I have created a somatic nervous system toolkit, which teaches women to go, firstly, check in with where you are. This is what we need to learn to do as neurodivergent women. Where am I at? What is my body feeling like right now? Actually, I can recognize I'm in a bit of a freeze state. I just need to lay here and watch Netflix, but it looks like I'm relaxing, but I'm really not. I'm just waiting until I have to get up and go and do something again.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's been me the last week with all this cool. I'm like, oh, and I'm at least aware now, like, okay, I'm in this state and I'm just going to observe it without judgment. But
Yeah.
I need to know, like, this is not just me relaxing. This is
No.
me actually holding together
Yeah.
in some kind of way. It's actually a freeze. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes. And it's
Hmm.
learning. So this is like a big step, starting to recognize actually where am I right now? What's happening? And then once we start to connect with that, it's okay, what can I do about it? So in a freeze state, okay, I need to move my body to tell my body it's safe, that I don't need to play dead anymore. But I haven't got the capacity to get up and properly move. Okay, well, maybe I can just breathe with my hands in and out. I can do that. That's available to
Ooh.
me.
Ooh, I
So
like
just
that. Wow.
breathing,
Hmm.
and then the brain goes, oh, we don't need to play dead anymore. We've got a bit of movement, right? So without having to intellectualize it and calm the brain down, the body's shifting the state for you. Okay. So it's that. And if that doesn't feel available, close your eyes and imagine yourself moving. Let the brain imagine you dancing. Okay. So it's these kind of things that I'm talking about. Simple things that don't require a lot of effort, that don't require resources. We can just learn to bring them in. And the things that we like, you won't like some of it, others you will.
Hmm.
Maybe it's
Hmm.
when you're drinking a hot drink, doing it by smelling it, tasting it, activate your senses. When we activate the senses, the nervous system feels safe. Okay. And I think it's important to say here that having a regulated nervous system doesn't mean you're calm all the time. I actually think that means you're a sociopath. I think what for
Right.
me, what it means is we pendulate. So we go into a freeze state, but we can bring ourselves back. We don't get stuck there. And that's what I think can happen to us as ADHD. We get stuck in a paralysis or in a RSD trigger, and we can't get out of it. So having the somatic practices they're tools we were never given, right?
Right. Right.
I think so many of us don't know what it means to feel relaxed or how to do it.
Yeah.
Our level of
Yeah.
stress is so high and we're so desensitized to that.
Yeah, and I love that you mention, let your body tell you, like your body will know, like your body already knows somewhere inside of it. So just giving it permission, that's worked for me to take the lead and not the head to figure it out. That's just
Yeah,
my default setting. But when I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna and I love this breathing with my hands by just scrunching my
yeah,
fingers, and
yeah,
that's moving. And I'm like, right, anything I can do to just move and
yeah,
allow my body to say what feels good to the pleasure point. What feels good in terms of movement? Like, is it a walk? Is it, cleaning up papers, just moving around the house, or is it scrunching my fingers or my toes? Yeah. Hmm.
And I think really importantly, like you said there, not trying to create a story of why. Okay, why am I feeling like this? What's happened to it? Sometimes we just might not know.
Hmm.
The important thing is that we have a tool or a resource to be able to go, okay, I recognize this is where I am and this is how I can move out of it.
Right, right. So then back to like how do you navigate or how have you navigating your practice? Because I know I've just from a distance observing, I've watched you evolve over the last year, how you do your practice and how you work with women. I'm sure the study you did had was
Mm.
a huge part of that. So how has that shifted for you in terms of how you work within, which is a different, very different kind of healthcare system, but still a healthcare
Yeah.
system than we have in the States, but nonetheless a system. So how do you navigate within that system to do the work that you do with others?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is one of the great things around working for yourself, right? You have the space to continually evolve and be completely organic, which works so well for an ADHD brain. I cannot stagnate. I'm always on the evolution and the, like fine tuning and, So when I first started accidentally working with ADHD and hormones because of my own journey, it was all women. It was, menarche right the way through post-menopause and anything in between. But that's huge. I don't work with fertility because I think it's so nuanced. And there's some incredible specialists out there. But so for me, it was going further into my own perimenopause journey has just led me to have more and more data and research and information around perimenopause. So whilst I would always be available to support any ADHD woman who wasn't helped because the services just aren't there, in my opinion, doing it very well always. For me, it's become very clear around perimenopause. Now, the challenge that I have here, particularly in the UK, Europe, Australia, it's a bit better in the States in terms of accessibility to hormones, is empowering my women with this knowledge around what they can do. And then they face a system that can't support them in that way. So I'm fortunate that I run my clinic with a specialist GP who's incredible. I'm really on board with understanding progesterone. In fact, I'd say he's probably the UK lead, in my opinion, from the prescribers I've come across. Um, but dealing with the mainstream system, I try not to, is
Right.
my honest answer, because women just a lot of the time get gaslit. Women come to me, they've got medical trauma from their experience, they're exhausted trying to get their needs met. And the system, in my opinion, is about 60 years behind where it needs to be in understanding HRT at all, particularly progesterone. So we're very limited with what we can do through that route. It's very frustrating, the privilege associated with being able to access a lot of these services, which are private. You're having to pay for them yourself. Um, so it's tricky. I have a letter on my website that is free to download for all women who want to access HRT and have ADHD. It references studies, so it takes a bit of the like, oh, please just read this. And I think the best you can hope for is you have a prescriber who's willing to get curious with you.
Hmm.
If you're shut down and someone does the inner eye roll, that is just so harmful. But if you have a prescriber, you say, please get curious with me on this. I have this evidence, I have this information. Will you work with me? That is the best that we can hope for in the current system. And in that, while that maintains, I just stay in my lane, keep going, keep educating, keep advocating, keep empowering with knowledge. And I do believe, maybe I'm naively optimistic, that over maybe the next decade, maybe the next two, there will be shift and there will be change, but it's coming from the women. It's not coming from the top down. There's no one coming to save us with this. It's
Hmm.
coming from women getting information and going to their doctors and saying, this is not effing good enough. Right. I
Right.
know this helps me. I've been working with a private prescriber on this dose. I feel amazing. Why are you refusing me this? That's where it's going to come from.
Mm. Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have that agency to, I mean, that was certainly part of, I mean, being in the past medical gaslighting recipient, and not yet having the wherewithal to advocate for myself and to push back. Yeah, it's a very scary, lonely feeling. So, trying to create spaces where you can be heard and hear others talk about it with good information, I think is just going to be so important. And then being able to turn around and go back out and advocate for others, or in the larger
Absolutely.
sense. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
think, I mean, two things that you said there that I think are so powerful are one, community. So many women come to me and they're like, I'm on my own with this. No, you're not. Come to us. We have a community. So I have a WhatsApp community for ADHD women. I have a VIP space for women who work with me in community. And we come together and they're like, oh my gosh, I found my people. Okay, I don't want any woman to feel alone on this journey. Um, what was the other thing that you said that was really important there? It'll come back to me. Total ADHD moment. But I
No, I
think that,
get it. Oh, this makes me
yeah,
feel better. I
just
love,
goes. And I'm totally unapologetic about it.
I
Like that's just
know.
what happens. That's what happens. It's how it goes. It will come back at 3
I
a.m.
know. I
But
know.
you know, that community is so important
Yeah.
to have women come together and go, oh my gosh, I'm not on my own. You
Yeah.
know, it's that real shared experience and understanding where you can show up unmasked. I say to all my women, all of you is welcome. I don't want the masked version. You're going to interrupt me. You're going to talk over me. We're going to end up talking about something really random, but I will always bring it back. You will always leave with a plan. We will always leave with everything you need being covered, you know, and
Right.
I just think we don't give each other permission to do that. Oh, that was the other thing. It's come back is once one woman hears this information, we tell everyone. Once woman goes, oh my God, I found the thing that's working for me, we tell everyone, right? So we ripple it out. Men don't do that. Women do. And that's so powerful. The number of
Hmm.
women that come to me say, oh my gosh, my friend saw you and referred you. And that's what my business is based on because women talk when they find solutions.
Right. Right. So yeah, no, that was, I mean, that was definitely like when I got when I was like, oh, this is menopause officially. My levels proved it. And then I just, anytime I saw anyone, they were like talking about something that sounded like menopause. I'm like, that sounds like menopause. Go talk to your doctor. And they were like, what? I'm like, no, seriously, don't suffer. And it was, yeah, I was on a bit
No,
of a rampage for a
good.
while because I'm
And
like, because not every, I didn't, like I said, I had the benefit of having friends who are a bit older, who'd already been through it, who'd been through lots of medical gaslighting and were told that they had a
yeah,
brain tumor or thought they had a brain tumor, things like that. I'm like, what? So I had that benefit. So yeah, community is hugely important and
it
talking about
is.
it. And that, because the M word was for a long time, like, you can't talk about that. I'm like, why not?
I know. Yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's just menopause.
So,
I don't know why,
yeah.
because it has to do with a female body. I don't
So much
understand.
shame.
Yeah.
There's so much shame and taboo. And I give a lot of talks in all different spaces around this. And whether I'm in a boardroom full of CEOs or a yurt where everyone's deep into their womb space and anything in between, the minute you give women permission to talk about their periods, everyone is in. I have never, touch wood, been in a space where no one's wanted to talk about it when they've been given the permission to. You know, it's
Mm,
really quite incredible when we have, and we're the generation removing that shame and saying no more.
yeah.
And I think what's really good is we're moving away from this stereotype that menopause meant dry vaginas and hot flushes. It's not. Early perimenopause, those, and maybe I'm talking like 10 years worth of symptoms, is nothing to do with that. You're looking at maybe more overwhelm, maybe a less robust nervous system, a bit more anxious. Women often go, I'm not an anxious person, but I've started to feel anxious. Progesterone deficiency. You're not sleeping so well. You may be developing a bit of belly fat on your tummy because you're not using insulin so effectively. These are the subtle shifts that are perimenopause that women go to a GP and they get put on a psychotic medication, a psychiatric medication, like an SSRI, right? And actually what they probably need is progesterone.
Mm, right. So what would be, like I don't know, like at least one thing, but maybe like the top three things you would suggest to someone who's like noticing these changes for the first time, like what to do, and then if they go to someone, what to ask for, what questions they can ask, like some simple things to gauge this is a good person that can help me, or I need to find someone else even kind of
Yeah.
thing?
So if to answer the question about what to say to someone, if you are looking for a prescriber on progesterone, I would ask them what their knowledge is around higher doses of prescribing. Okay, so for example, the highest dose you're likely to get on the NHS is 200, whereas we would start our women usually on 300 and could go up to 2,500 in a 24-hour period. Okay, so really speaking to prescriber, what's your knowledge and experience around different types of progesterone and the dosing that you're willing to go to? That will gauge it. If it looks like very standard, 200 is the max, I would look elsewhere. That's going to give you a good gauge of where they are. In terms of some top tips that you can just go away and get going on. One, you can buy progesterone cream over the counter. If you think, like from what I've said today, it's landing, it might not be you. You know, progesterone isn't for everybody, but it's a
Right.
very, very safe molecule, you know, so you can have a look online and see if that's something you're interested in. The other thing I would say is eat 30 grams of protein within an hour of waking up. Like everyone can achieve that.
Oh,
Okay.
I did not
That
know that.
that's going to make your adrenals feel safe and it's going to regulate your blood sugar. So you're starting your entire day from a really regulated place. Okay. So within an hour, we don't want fasting. Okay. I'm not a fan of fasting for my women. There is lots of health evidence around fasting, but you better make sure your adrenals are highly functioning and optimal and your thyroid is in good shape. Otherwise, you are putting a lot of stress on the body. So
So, like
really
for
making
someone
sure
like
you
me who doesn't have a thyroid anymore, that
do.
might be extra helpful to have my 30 grams of protein within the first hour.
And a really good dose of progesterone. So
Hmm.
having that protein is really important. Get some sunlight in your eyes before 8:30 in the morning. Okay. Skies before screens. I go outside and I eat my breakfast outside, even if it's grey and overcast, which it seems to perpetually be here in England at the moment. Outside, you know, getting that daylight. Don't make it complicated. You know, it's like, okay, I need to eat my breakfast. I'm going to stand outside and get this daylight. That is going to tell your brain, oh, it's morning. So it knows when to release cortisol, it knows when to release melatonin, something ADHD people suffer with quite often is melatonin release. So getting that daylight doesn't cost you anything. You've just got to, the hard bit is weaving it into your day if you're not doing it already. And check in with yourself every day. How do I feel? How am I feeling right now? Check in with yourself right now. How do you feel? How does your body feel? How does your mood feel? What's going on mentally? You're not attaching a story to it. Just notice. Actually, I'm really thirsty. I need to get a drink. We forget to drink and eat, right? As ADHDers. So coming in and just doing this little check in with the body, we might notice, oh, that's what I need. Or actually, I need to go and speak to my friend about an RSD moment I had last week. I need to, you know, we just check in and notice. So there's some key things that you can go away and do that sound quite simple, but are profound in their impact in your hormones.
Hmm. Okay. Great. So, okay, so y'all, if you've been listening to this, if you have any of those ADHD symptoms meshing in with that time of your life where you're like, this could also be, it's getting worse. It's feeling worse. What is happening? This is probably what's happening. So go
Absolutely.
talk to your doctor. And I don't, I've put up resources before about where, certainly in the States, where women can find at least a starting point of practitioners that specialize or that are focused and menopause informed, if nothing else. So, and then, yeah, the ADHD part. It really is a perfect storm. I mean, it
It
really
really
is.
is. And as soon as we go, oh, that makes sense. I think that's 50% of the healing. Oh, that's what's happening. This isn't in my head. This is a thing.
Right.
Hormones are the most powerful biochemicals in the body. They affect every system of your body, your cognitive function, your emotional regulation, your skin elasticity, your immunity, everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put your Instagram also in here.
Thank you.
So that people can find you there and follow you and get
Yeah,
info
come
there.
say hi.
Yes, she is delightful, y'all. Seriously,
Thank
and really
you.
super helpful because you just put out great information that, even if I'm not working with you one-on-one or directly, I don't
Yeah.
live there, etc. But I still get so much great information straight from
Mm.
the source. So,
I work with women all over the world.
oh,
So
really?
because I'm online, yeah, I've got quite a number of women in the States and Australia, across Europe, because we all
Oh,
need information, right? I don't prescribe, but I
right, right.
empower with the knowledge. And then it's like, right, let's go. And we create a plan. So that's not a problem.
Okay, well, I'm going to make note of that. I did not realize that. So, note
Yeah.
to self, I'm making a note on my hand here. Making a note. No, but seriously, because I will be reaching out
Yeah,
because
I'm
I
here.
can
I'm
feel
here.
that like my doctor now is really great too. And I can feel that I need some additional support hormonally or just something. There's something I'm missing. Like I know
I hear
enough.
that a lot.
I know
Yeah.
enough and I know a lot and I have great care and yet there's some piece here I've been feeling for this past year is missing. So I didn't realize you worked with people in the States. So, woo!
Women quite often come to me just like, I just need a one-off. This is what I'm doing. I've got the information. Can you just tell me what I'm missing, what's out of alignment, what I need to try? And quite often it's just like a few tweaks, and that's what I'm like, let's get here right. That's what's missing. And it's like, okay.
Oh, this is amazing. Okay, y'all. So even better, even better. Well, I'll have your Instagram, your website, and
Yeah.
we're gonna link to the study, right? In the
Perfect. Yeah,
show
I will send
notes.
that through.
Yeah, well, so we'll link to the show in the show notes. Everything will be there. All things Adele. So and harmonize you. I love that name, by the way.
Oh,
Harmonize you.
thank you.
It's really wonderful. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been really, and I learned something new today, and I thought I knew a lot already, but just
Good.
reminds me to stay curious and to ask
Always.
questions and not assume that I know what I don't know. So it's really helpful. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye. Great big thank you to Adele for joining me. A great big thank you to all of you for being here. All the links are in the show notes. The link to the Perfect Storm study that Adele did, the link to her website, Harmonize You with an s.co.uk, and of course her Instagram at Adele Wimsett with an underscore between the two names. So check all of those links out. It'll also all be in my resources page on my Substack, hellarader.substack.com. And yeah, if you have a story you want to share or a topic you'd like me to cover in an episode of the podcast, you can send me an email to hellarader@substack.com because together we really do bring light into dark places. I'm Hella Rader. With a good sense of humor, an open heart, and an open mind, I love to explore the very human complexities in others and in myself. That's why I created a space for women you have never heard of and could easily pass on the street to share in their own voices the intricacies of starting over in life, building community, inhabiting their bodies, and more. Welcome to our Disco Ball, the stories that sparkle. And just a side note, programming note, that yes, I am doing more video pod episodes. Very exciting. This was an opportunity since we recorded this conversation on Zoom to go ahead and make another video episode. So still have some technical issues to iron out, like how do I get the video to show up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But for now, you can certainly watch along at YouTube, at Hella Rader is my channel. You can also watch along on my Substack, hellarader.substack.com. Of course, you can listen to the Stories That Sparkle podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So if you want to help support, if you want to get the word out, please become a listener, a downloader, a subscriber, rate, review, share, all the things. So yeah, help me get more women's voices out there and more good information about women's health out there to all of us. All right, so thank you and see you back here again soon. Mwah! Listen to the Stories That Sparkle podcast wherever you get your podcasts.